Hey guys, this video is in relation to a cybersecurity incident procedure / plan / data breach response plan, whatever you want to call it. I'm doing this in honor of this week because it's a business continuity awareness week, and I think this is a very important point and a very important factor into the BCP, which is your business continuity plan. So I'm going to go over a couple of pointers. So one key point is to explain what a data breach is, what it means to your organization, to make sure all of your staff, your senior exec, your board, your CEO understands what it is and can report it in a timely manner when it needs to be. Second of all, is to explain your cyber insurance details. So have the hotline, have a couple of key pointers in what your cyber insurance policy includes, because they can give you some really good guidelines and some really good advice when you're in a situation of a data breach. Next up is your key steps of detection, assessment, management, and containment. This is very important, and make sure you have a little bit of detail under each of those headings. Next up is a communication strategy. Make sure you have an effective and really clear communication strategy. So if you have a comms team in-house, then that's fantastic. If you don't, then you can also outsource it for crisis situations, which can work for some organizations. And if it doesn't, then I would suggest to have some communications templates that are pre-made and can be changed and altered for each situation as it needs to be, because it's very important to communicate internally and externally when you need to, especially with affected persons of a data breach. Next up is to clearly state the decision-making points. So whether this is you decide to have a data breach response team and make sure you have their roles and responsibilities clearly defined, make sure it's really obvious who in fact can declare a data breach, who in fact is responsible for notifying legislative and data breach regulation authorities like GDPR, like the OAIC for the notifiable data breach scheme, and then clearly state which regulations that you need to comply with, how and when you need to respond and notify those organizations as well. It's always good to also have a couple of templates for that too, because the last thing you want in a crisis situation is to be, thinking about, oh, is the wording right? Is this right? Is that right? So it's always good to have some templates in place and then just have a legal team look over it for you. Next up is to understand the linkages of the data breach response plan to your crisis management plan and your business continuity plan. This is very important because what I've seen at a number of clients that we've done a couple of tabletop exercises for and we've looked at these plans is that there isn't a clear linkage or relationship between each of them. And a data breach is a crisis and it needs to be managed well. Next up is have checklists in place. Checklists help so much, especially in a crisis situation when you're panicking, worried, stressed about everything, how you're going to deal with the situation. It definitely helps to make sure you cover your key points and your key decision-making points. It's also good to have a note taker in place as well. So make sure when you're doing your linkages to the CMP and the BCP that you have that in place as well. Next up is to make sure you have a post-cyber incident review. This is very important because this is where you'll go back, you'll trace your steps, see how long decisions were made, see who made decisions, the discussion around it, also what you've learned, what you can do better, and what's in control in your hands to improve, and also what you've done well and what you can apply to other areas in terms of what you've done well. So that's all for today, guys. If you want any further details, have any further questions, please let me know. Don't hesitate to ask. And if there's any other topics, please feel free to reach out to me. Cheers, guys. Have a good one.